Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and tonight you, our viewers, are going to be a big part of our program. Your opinion tonight certainly as good as anybody else's. Our phone lines are open, and I'm going to field your questions and comments about school tonight and whether or not you're going to be comfortable sending your kids back to school in the midst of the COVID outbreak. Our toll-free number, the lines are open at 888-766-2428, also 888-RNN-CHAT. Now, if you'd rather tweet us, send us a message to LarryEP13. We could read your questions or comments right on the air. Coronavirus, unfortunately, continues to spread as we speak, with hospitals getting overwhelmed in many states, including now South Carolina.
We're at the maximum we can do. No beds in the ICU, no beds in the hospital.
Florida also one of the new epicenters, especially down in Miami-Dade County. Its number of cases exploding, and now nearly half of the state's ICU units, they're at 90% capacity or more. Florida is also seeing record numbers of deaths just this week. In the middle of all of that, the president, he decided to visit Dade County today, and he was there to talk about drug trafficking and to attend a fundraiser, two events that have absolutely nothing to do with the virus outbreak. And I should add, the president is not wearing a mask yet again, even though he was near a very big concentration of people. Now, the number of cases nationwide also is hitting another record. More than 60,000 people tested positive in just the past 24 hours. As you can see from this chart, those numbers, they've been trending up for the past several days. And Texas, California, Arizona continue to be among the most hardest hit states. The numbers of people hospitalized soaring, with many areas running low on beds, protective gear, even doctors and nurses to fight this virus. All three of the states also seeing record numbers of fatalities this week. Now, despite all that, the president is playing politics tonight with the pandemic, and he's trying to force schools to reopen, ready or not.
We want to reopen the schools. Everybody wants it. The moms want it, the dads want it, the kids want it. It's time to do it. We have to get our schools open and stop this political nonsense. And it's only political nonsense. It's politics. They don't want to open because they think it will help them on November 3rd. I think it's going to hurt them on November 3rd. Open your schools.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But more than just the rhetoric, the president, he's threatening to pull funding from schools that don't get students back into their classrooms. But the superintendent of the very district where the president visited today says reopening too soon, a terrible idea.
Miami-Dade is right now the epicenter of the epicenter in our country in terms of COVID positivity. At a time when hospitalization numbers are up, at a time when the number of patients in ICU beds are up, at a time when, quite frankly, restaurants have been emptied out, shuttered, it is counterintuitive to mandate students to return to school at full capacity.
Teachers and parents across the country, they're also expressing their concerns. I want you to listen to this educator from Seattle.
I think on behalf of all the educators that I know and the educators in Federal Way, I think nobody should be taking medical advice from Donald Trump or Betsy DeVos, quite frankly.
This mother of three in Florida says it's dangerous to force kids back into the classrooms.
For me, that's not acceptable, because if you are actually saying, okay, let's go back and then let's see who gets COVID. Is it going to be one child? Is it going to be 100 children? Is it going to be thousands of children because all of Florida's opening up?
I want to bring in our guest right now, Eskelsen Garcia. She's the president of the National Education Association, a union representing 3 million educators. So she's definitely got more than some equity in this conversation. And listen, we probably can agree on this right off the bat, Lily. Everybody wants kids to have in-school learning. It's not a debate that some people say, hey, listen, you know, forget going back to schools. Let's do this all online anymore. I got 3 kids. It doesn't work nearly as well. I know the teachers want it. I know the parents certainly want it. The kids want it too. So it's not an issue of want. It's an issue of whether or not we're ready. Listen, to me, I would imagine from your end, when you heard the president this week say, ready or not, you're going back, and if you don't, I'm going to cut off federal funding. You probably said for 2 months, where have you been, federal government, with any guidance? Where's been the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, even saying boo about how you're going to do this safely and the right way? Wanting and planning are two different things, right?
So I can't tell you the words that came out of my mouth as I was listening to this, because I'm a sixth grade teacher from Utah, and we just don't use that kind of language usually. But more than being the president of the National Education Association, 3 million educators across this country, I've been a sixth grade teacher that had 39 12-year-olds in my classroom one year. That was not healthy on the best day. We are little germ factories, these little sweaty, runny noses all over the place. When a kid would sneeze on me, I knew I was going to catch somebody's cold. It goes along with the job. Now, if someone coughs on me, maybe I die. Maybe I take it home to my family, or this kid takes it home to his family. What the president is doing here, I have never been so angry in 3.5 years of being as angry as I thought I could be, because he is playing politics with these children, with their families. And I cannot figure it out. Is he doing this on purpose to create a distraction, to somehow have this chaotic moment for public schools? You know, some schools are supposed to open in 2 or 3 weeks. They open early in August, and he has said, open or else. Do you know what kind of federal funding comes from the federal government to your local school? Special ed, school lunch, things that were designed to help our most vulnerable kids. Kids who live in poverty go to Title I schools. That's what he's talking about cutting if we don't open schools, ready or not. No one is going to forget Betsy DeVos saying, yeah, I know you've all been working hard with health professionals and school nurses and teachers and principals, and we don't care. All of the kids in all of the schools all day long, or we're going to take your funding. That's what they both said at a time of national crisis.
Now, Lily, I want to get to the logistics of this here, and I'll give some of the challenges, and you tell me what I'm forgetting. But first, I want to play, this is the CDC Director, Robert Redfield. And for me, he points out how this is not a one-size-fits-all problem, let alone solution.
Which of these guidelines are too tough? Which of these guidelines are impractical?
Again, I think it depends on how the schools put the portfolio together. Clearly, we see some individuals are concerned about the 6-foot distancing. Others individuals are concerned about face masks. Other individuals are concerned about rotating schedules. But I think this is why we put it there, as was said by one of your previous guests. These decisions about schools are local decisions.
So, Lily, you, as I mentioned, represent 3 million teachers coast to coast. You're going to have some states here that kids aren't even going to have to wear masks to go to school. They're not going to have to be 6 feet apart, let alone we're dealing with 7- and 8-year-olds. I mean, let's think about this, right? And then, conversely, other states will have those requirements, but you haven't built larger schools. You haven't created the solution of how you're going to space out desks, to your example, 39 kids in a room, magically, you know. So my point is, how is this going to work? We all want the same thing. Let's say magically, you know, we get them all back here. The numbers go down. How do you separate everybody, and how do you do it if they're not even masked or staying apart?
So, good questions. And there is no magic, even though the president seems to keep saying, he uses the word magically disappear and we won't have to make any tough decisions. When you are talking to an American educator, to some of the most creative people on the planet, we are problem solvers. And we have been sitting down with administrators for months. And we've been saying in school district to school district, because it's going to look different in Bozeman, Montana, than it's going to look in Miami. I've asked my teachers, what are some of the things you've been playing with, some of the possible, and remember, these are short-term, not long-term. Will this bridge us to the next part where we can open a little bit more? Saying, all right, we can't fit your 39 kids in your classroom, but we might do split sessions, and half of them will go to school in the morning and half of them will go to school in the afternoon. What if we ask parents, which ones of you insist on continuing online learning because you're that worried. And let's see who's left and how we separate those kids so that some kids are doing 100% online because their parents want that for them. And others, we will find ways to say, in this school, we put relocatables. We put these little portable classrooms in the back so we have more space. So we don't have more than 12 kids in a classroom. Is it going to be hard? Oh, yeah. But we're trying to be creative. All of that was like splotted. It was like splashed with Donald Trump and Betsy DeVos going, no, no, no. All the kids, all day long, every school, no matter what. And that's what we want. We're trying to solve two different problems, and it's very clear to me. We're trying to solve how do we slowly open this up so that kids get the academic and the social emotional needs that are being traumatized right now, and we don't sacrifice their health to do it. We're trying to solve that problem.
So I saw what happened in Missouri at a Christian camp where all of a sudden 80 some odd kids came down positive for COVID. So to me, I thought that might be a little bit of a canary in a coal mine here in terms of you had a camp and all of a sudden you have a huge number. Won't we have situations, Lily, where this isn't going to be a couple kids pulled out? If all of a sudden a bunch of kids are positive, now everyone who came in exposure with them, they're going to have to be on quarantine as well. I'm just trying to deal with some of the inevitabilities here. And the teachers, by the way, in the classroom, anyone who came in contact, you got to shut it all down. So even if they get their way, it's going to be, before it falls over, a bunch of schools are going to be shuttered whether anyone likes it or not.
This is stupid on so many levels. It is so mind-bogglingly stupid because they don't even solve their problem. They're just, it is magical thinking. You know what? I can't see it. I can't breathe it. I can't smell it. So just put those kids in there. I have a feeling their kids don't go to public school. And so it's just not even anything they thought of. Just be strong and put them in there, and what could go wrong? People are going to die.
If the primary driver is you want a healthy economy, you need to address COVID broadly, but you have to figure out a way to have the kids in the schools. But there is a way the best way to try it, and it's not, as you said, to cut teachers. I mean, that's asinine, and also at the same time here, cram kids in the classroom. It won't work, and it's going to need federal help here, not to cut dollars, but to actually throw it into the kitty. I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to bring in our viewers in a little bit here, and they're relying on your members sooner than later. Let's hope sanity prevails. Lily, thank you so much for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, when we come back, you weigh in. I really want to hear from you, whether you're calling me from California, from Texas, from up and down the eastern seaboard. You all have your own set of concerns here, and I want to hear what you're thinking right now. As we're middle of July almost, what is your plan for your family? What do you want to see happen? What do you think we should do? What will you, won't you do with your kids? 888-766-2428 is our toll-free number. You see it there on your screen. When we come back, I head to you and your calls. Stay with us.